Hi, I'm Claire and this is a ginormous book haul for the spring and summer of 2017. I have acquired many books since we last did one of these videos, so let's get started because there's really a rather massive pile to be getting through. First, we've got a book that I received for review from Orbit, and that is Strange Practice by Vivian Shaw. This is a book about Dr. Greta Helsing, who is a doctor to the undead. It's basically about this doctor in modern London who inherits a medical practice from her family that caters to the undead and other various magical people. I really like this idea. I also really rather enjoy the fact that I received this book with a couple of like vampire teeth gummies and also a tiny bottle of Cointreau, which I have no idea what to do with. It was certainly an interesting way to receive a book for review. I had not seen that before. I'm really interested by the premise. I really like anything to do with medicine. It also says in the blurb in the back that at some point a weird cult of monks shows up killing people, and I really like anything to do with like a weird sect or cult, so I'm very excited about that. And a few friends of mine have read it and have recommended it, so I'm quite intrigued by this one. Then I've got a few books that I bought from conventions this summer, and I'm going to mention them very briefly because I've already talked about each of them in the videos that I did about Nine Worlds and Worldcon, but I realized these were very long, so in case you didn't want to watch all of these, just know that when I was at Nine Worlds I bought Arabella and the Battle of Venus by David D. Levine. This is a sequel to his debut novel Arabella of Mars, which I really enjoyed, read that earlier this year, and I really wanted the sequel. Next, I got two anthologies of short fiction. The first one is The Djinn Falls in Love and Other Stories. This is edited by Mavish Murad and Jared Shurin, and I was very excited because I've followed both of their work before, and I was really excited to see an anthology edited by them. There are also some really great authors published in this anthology: Nnedi Okorafor, Amal Al-Mokhtar, Neil Gaiman, Claire North, Maria Davana Headley. Loads of great names. And I've also got Monstrous Voices, New Tales from Shakespeare's Fantasy World. And this is an anthology that like takes the premise that all of Shakespeare's plays all happen in the same universe, and within that same universe short stories are being written about like other characters. And the stories in this anthology are a little bit longer. I think they're like novelette length instead of short stories, but we've got writing from Adrian Tchaikovsky, Foz Meadows and Emma Newman, so I was really excited to see those names. At Worldcon I managed to get an early copy of I Should Be Writing, a writer's workshop. This is by Mur Lafferty, who's been doing the podcast of the same name for many years, and I'm a huge fan, so I was super glad to be able to get a copy of this, and Mur signed it for me, which was also really lovely. This is a really well produced book. It's really colourful and gorgeous inside, and there are many pages worth of writing exercise at the end, so I'm really excited to kind of get stuck in and write in the book, which is not something I usually do. When I came home from Worldcon, my pre-order for Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan Mcguire had finally arrived. I was quite miffed that it was late, but I was super glad to have this book, and I've been kind of saving it for like a dreary autumn day, so I haven't read it yet, but I'm super excited to have it now. This is the second book in Mcguire's Wayward Children series, which started last year with Every Heart a Doorway, which many people, myself included, absolutely loved. In case you haven't heard anyone on BookTube rave about Every Heart a Doorway yet and you don't know the premise, it's about a school for children who have been to magical lands and have had adventures in those like fantastic fairy lands, and then have come back to like boring old reality, and they have to adjust to the mundane world. and so their parents send them to Eleanor West's school for wayward children to help them adjust again. In the first book we meet Nancy, who's come back from her own fairyland, but we also meet twin sisters Jack and Jill, who have come back from a completely different magical tale, and in Down Among the Sticks and Bones we follow them and their story and their adventure that they had when they originally went to their fairyland. So I'm really excited to read this, because in the first book we get a lot about Nancy's fairyland that she went to, but not a lot about this particular world that Jack and Jill went to, and it sounds like it was super creepy. So this is going to be, I think, a nice Halloween read. Also, shortly after Worldcon I treated myself to The Starlit Wood, New Fairy Tales. This is an anthology of fairy tale retellings that was edited by Dominic Parisian and Nava Wolf, and this was the anthology that Seasons of Glass and Iron by Amal Al-Motar was first published in. I had already read that particular story, but a couple of my friends at the con were telling me how gorgeous this book was and how I should really just treat myself and get the hardback of this anthology because it's so beautiful, and they were not wrong. So thank you to Dee Dee and thank you to Brie for kind of, you know, gently peer pressuring me into buying this gorgeous thing, because it's so nice to look at and to like hold when you're reading it. I don't know how well the camera is going to pick this up, but the production values on this book are really great. It's a naked hardback and it's kind of like a smaller hardback as well. I have no idea what the technical name for this is, but the cover also feels really soft. Some areas of it are slightly embossed to make it look like a kind of old-fashioned-y book, and it looks just so nice on a bookshelf when it just has this gorgeous spine showing, and it's got stories from Seanan Mcguire, Naomi Novik, Alia de Bodard, Marjorie Liu, Catherine M. Valenti, of course Amal Al-Motar as well. I've only read like 3 or 4 stories from this so far, and I'm quite enjoying it. For someone who's not usually super pumped about fairy tale retellings, I think this is doing really interesting stuff. Next up we've got another Tor.com novella, and that is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is book 1 in the Murderbot Diaries, which is just delightfully named, and it is about an android who calls itself Murderbot, and all that Murderbot wants to be able to do in life is to get on with its job without anyone noticing that it's hacked its government programming, so it can have a bit more free will, and, you know, without having to talk to humans who always want to make really awkward small talk and try and treat it like a person, because really all Murderbot wants to do is go back to its cabin and watch a whole bunch of TV shows that it's downloaded for itself from the internet. So it's a very relatable Murderbot, and it then has to deal with some attacks against the survey mission that it works for. I got this because Anna from Book Smugglers and Fangirl Happy Hour recommended it, and I would very much second that recommendation. I'm looking forward to the next one in the series. Next up, I've got a couple of highly anticipated books that I received for review from Orbit. First is The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. This is the 3rd book in her Broken Earth series that started with the 5th season and continued with the Obelisk Gate. This is an epic fantasy series that takes place in a world that is being ravaged by natural disasters on a very regular basis. Every 100 years or so they have what is called a 5th season, where the world goes basically post-apocalyptic for a little bit. And I'm sure it will shock you to hear that from the title of the first book, the 5th season, there is a 5th season that starts in that book, and people are struggling within the next few books to survive that. The series centers around several origin characters. They are magic users who can control the earth through a special magical sense that they have called Sesapine, where they can just sense the earth and kind of control it that way. They are a very feared and hated and discriminated against group of people, and they have to hide what they are unless they want to go and live with the like sanctioned magic users in the Fulcrum, where they are very cruelly treated. The whole series is about oppression. It's about people being used as tools. It's about the people who have been doing the oppressing becoming afraid that the people that have been kept down all these years will now treat them as badly in return as they have been treated in the past. It's about what happens when people with literal earth-shattering magic powers get a bit pissed off about how they've been treated all these years, and it's just really, really fascinating. You'll have to excuse me if I'm a bit scattered when I'm talking about this one in particular. I finished reading it today and I'm trying really hard not to either give spoilers for the previous books or basically do a wrap-up of this book which I just finished reading, but I would very, very much recommend this. The next book I want to talk about I also received from Orbit, and I was so excited to find this parcel in the mail the other day because it is Provenance by Ann Leckie. This is a new book in the Imperial Ratch universe. This is not part of the same series of the same storyline as Ancillary Justice, Ancillary Sword, and Ancillary Mercy, but it's part of the same universe. It's the same setting, and I really, really love the setting for those books and how complex it is and how much like depth there is behind everything. So I'm really, really excited to read more in that world. And I actually went to an event with Ann Leckie a couple months ago, and there were samplers of this book at this event, so I've already read the first chapter and I'm so excited to continue. The story is about a young woman who doesn't have a very high standing within her own family and wants to prove herself, as well as retrieve some ancient prized artifacts with the help of a convicted criminal that she's going to break out of prison. And I can tell you just from chapter 1 that things do not go that smoothly. And finally, for this book haul, I've got a few graphic novels that I picked up from the comic book store recently. All of these are the second volume in a series that I've already started reading. We've got Paper Girls Volume 2. This is written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Cliff Chiang with colors by Matt Wilson. The colors in this book are absolutely gorgeous. As I mentioned in my recent reading wrap-up of a whole bunch of comics, I read Paper Girls because it was nominated for a Hugo Award for Best Graphic Work this year. I liked it well enough, even though it is extremely weird and I don't really know what's going on right now. I'm keen to keep reading this because I trust Brian K. Vaughan's writing, and also because at the end of volume 1 there was a massive cliffhanger that I don't really want to reveal here, but it introduces one of my favorite tropes ever, and I'm super excited to keep going in the second volume. Next we've got Bitch Planet Volume 2, President Bitch, and this is written by Kelly Sue DeConnick with art by Valentine Delandro, as well as guest artist Taki Soma for issue 6. I read Bitch Planet Volume 1 when it first came out and I quite liked it, but I think I'm gonna have to reread it before getting into Volume 2 because it is an ensemble cast and there are a lot of different stories of different women being told in this book. If you've not heard the premise for Bitch Planet, it's about a prison planet for women who have been deemed non-compliant in this kind of grim patriarchal future where women who displease men in literally any way at all get sent to this prison planet that's nicknamed Bitch Planet, and there they are generally fairly poorly treated by the guards and the administration of the prison and everything, but they do try and band together and kind of form a revolution. As it says here, you can't jail the revolution. As I said, I quite enjoyed the first book. My main problem with the first book was that there wasn't really enough time to explore the stories of all these different women that are part of the ensemble, and some of them we didn't know as well, but hopefully that will be explored more in the second volume. And finally, I've got Monstrous Volume 2, The Blood. This is the story of a teenage girl who has a demon living in her head, and she's trying to not let it turn her into a monster. This is written by Marjorie Liu and illustrated by Sana Takeda. The first volume won this year's Hugo, and I think very deservedly so. This is just a really great epic fantasy story with a lot of depth. So again, this is another one where I'm probably gonna have to reread the first book before I go into the second one. Not because it's been too long since I've read it, but just because book one is very, very complex and there's a lot of stuff in it. It's kind of a high learning curve of high fantasy, so probably I'm going to want to do a little bit of a reread. I'm really, really excited for this one. So that's it. These were all of the books that I've acquired since I last did a book haul. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books, or if you have any in particular that you're really intrigued by or really excited to get to. I know I really want to get to Down Among the Sticks and Bones really soon, as well as Provenance. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check out a previous video right about here. And if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button that's on my face right here for more videos from me every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.